Hey Cancer, this is Madeline here to give you your monthly astrological report for the month of May 2025. And I'm going to go ahead and share my notes. Um, I want to get these out earlier, but I've been so busy. So I'm not complaining. I like being busy. But anyway, so Cancer, you guys are going to start the month out with the sun in your 11th house, which is interesting. That's why I've been busy. I'm Cancer rising. So that's a lot of interactions with people, um, a lot of shall we say, social networking, contacts, people popping up out of the blue, um, perhaps clientele's word of mouth. There's a new opportunity opens up with that new moon there in your 11th house, an opportunity involving the networking or so coming through your social networking, shall we say, realm, and also opportunity showing up that can put you more out into the public, or shall we say, serving humanity. It could be a new beginning involving social media, networking, and you could also be meeting a lot of new people through social media and networking. Then the house is going to move into the 12th, into your 12th house on the 20th, where you will find yourself going more introverted and more introspective and evaluating where you have come so far in the year. And it's a little bit of a downtime before you have Jupiter also coming into your first house and the sun in June, which is going to be a very busy and uptime. So then we're going to have Mercury starts out the month in your 10th house. So there's going to be, again, with that sun in your 11th and Mercury in your 10th, there's a lot of career and clients, talking with people, Aries energy, Mercury initiating. It's out of the shadow zone. So feeling like things are moving forward and busy and lots of communication and talking and interacting and getting out in the world and exposing yourself to the, shall we say, um, well, like the 10th house is career and your status and your bosses and authorities. So basically, perhaps also dealing with your taxes. Then Venus in the 10th house, also being there, puts quite an emphasis on your career house, with that Mercury also being there. And then Venus is going, in mid-May, Venus is going to be out of shadow, and you're going to feel quite a lot of momentum forward in your 10th house, but also relationship or co-collaborative. You could end up in a romantic situation with a co worker or a boss, or you are starting to take a collaborative venture with your true person, your relationship, or partnership agreements come in and you make some partnership agreements. I've had a few people coming to me wanting to make some plans and do co-collaboratives. So that's a good, this is May is a nice month actually in general for everybody, but for cancers, it's going to really spark your career house, especially when Saturn moves in there on the 25th, which I will get to in a minute. So yeah, so Venus is blessing cancers with a nice abundance in their careers and new again new being more out in the public and more seen and attention and recognition. And then Mars in your second house, inspiring creativity. In case you haven't noticed in my work, I'm adding much more art. And the fact that this even just being a diagram um, is exactly that. It's very using art. And the background that I've been using is very creative. I've been using AI and making lots of pictures and things like that. So um, it's interesting. So it could be the Neptune in the 10th or Leo in the second. That's causing cancers to add quite a bit of creative, decorative, aesthetic improvements, but also there's passion, creativity, inspiration in that second house, and a lot of energy and drive to make money, new money, and opportunities coming in for that. Don't forget that new moon in the 11th house may have increased opportunities for you in your second house because Taurus is a second house energy. So then we've got Jupiter in your 12th house where you are definitely coming to some sort of clarity about, because you're about to have Jupiter in the first house where you're going to take a lot of initiatives and really expand your life and your work and your dharma and your calling. So when Jupiter's in the 12th house, you're really either studying or learning a lot. Um, and with the nodes being in your ninth house, you're really studying perhaps astrology or other philosophical or traveling. But traveling is kind of like raises our consciousness and our it educates us in a spiritual way, you could say. It's sort of like traveling is considered retreat. If you travel to places that are very spiritual and that give you downtime, nature and things like that, with Jupiter in the 12th house, spending time in nature and downtime gives you lots of downloads and clarity about where to go forward when Jupiter is going to be in your first house, where you're going to be taking a lot of inspired initiatives and Jupiter's in exaltation in the first house. So Cancer's with, and then you're going to have Saturn moving into your 10th. So you're going to be really motivated and stepping into very strong initiating leadership positions, initiating new expansive beginnings, confidence in yourself, Jupiter in the first house, believing in yourself, and then with Saturn in your 10th, really stepping forward with some sort of confidence about elevating your career status. But also Saturn in the 10th can involve marriage, committed relationships, contracted marriage, because your status shifts when you have a lot of planets in your 10th house. It can actually shift from single to married or from married to single, depending on what's happening in your charts. So yeah, if you want a personal reading, do contact me and we can look at all these things, because it really does depend on your own personal chart how these plays out. But this is just a sort of general overall idea of how the month looks for Cancers. So yeah, so then that moves us. So yeah, June 9th is when Jupiter is going to move into your first house. And then that Saturn has already moved into your 10th house, squaring Jupiter in your first. But so Saturn's going to move out of that ninth house where you're going to have some sort of big karmic wrap up when it reaches that Gandanta point, which is the last degrees of Pisces, where you're really wrapping up. Saturn rules your seventh houses, so you're most likely wrapping up old divorces, old relationships, tying up a knot, or old contract agreements that are wrapping out, that are karmic relationships, or clients that are basically relationships that would have been cultivated from a place of attachments and fear-based energies. Because if you've got Pisces in your ninth house, and that's where Cancer is, where you're clearing the way for perhaps new later in life relationships. But if you're already in your relationship, you're really clearing a dynamic, a karmic patterning in your relationships, which can include business partnerships and other contracted relationships, where perhaps these relationships were more out of alignment in some way, and there was attachments and triggering and all those sorts of things are being purged out of Cancer in their codependency issues are being cleared away. Very, very, very. This transit from Saturn into the first, but Saturn will go retrograde and go back, so it could pop up some more issues. But on the whole, Cancers have really healed a lot of codependency issues and are really ready for um, the pure, balanced state in a relationship. So even if you're in a relationship, you're just shifting into a more independent and balanced give and take in the relationship. So that's a big shift for Cancer. Then when that Saturn moves into your 10th house, that is a big deal. Things get really, really busy, hard work around your career. You can either get a big boost up in your career and get recognitions, more public notoriety. That also will happen when Saturn moves into your 11th, but there's going to be a lot of hard work upgrading your career, moving to the next level, promotion, or you become the boss, or you start a completely new career because it's in Aries, it's a whole new cycle, and you become very devoted in this new career venture because you had eclipses there. So a new career could absolutely be starting, and you're cementing, or you're grounding a new foundation, developing this new foundation, and this Saturn's going to be in your 10th house for 3 to 2.5 years. where you're really, Neptune is there, so you're really working hard to cultivate and cause the beginnings of the structures of a 29 to 30 year dream life experience, and also career. And again, perhaps marriage and commitment in a relationship, but basically the career is getting a big, serious, hardcore workout. And most likely by the end of this transit, you will have perhaps gained a big jump in your social expertise in your field, mastery of your field, and social recognition of who you are. You become a accredited person in your area of work. Um, so lots to talk about with Saturn in your 10th, because it's going to square your first, it's going to square your seventh and your first house. So that if you've got your ascendant somewhere there or your sun somewhere there. And so that's kind of tough. Saturn, when it squares your ascendant or your sun, it kind of, your body feels stiff. You feel a bit tired, a bit low energy. And but it is good to work out and do muscle work and build muscle during a Saturn squaring your first. So if you use that energy right, it's to develop better strength in your bones and structure for aging, because bones are become frail when they age. So um, Saturn squaring your first house is a time to really strengthen your bones and strengthen your skeleton and your muscular system. So, and that'll offset the down energy that Saturn is influencing you to feel. So then we've got the North Node. I'm going to skip over the outer planets. Other than that, Uranus goes into Gemini, into the 12th house on the 7th. And that will be a very, shall we say, surprising things can happen during that period, and we can talk about that more in depth. But that basically is can sets you up for 8 years of sudden out of the blue travel or retreats. But I will go more into that in later when that transit is approaching us in July. And then we've got that North Node. Jupiter, Pluto's going to go retrograde in on the 4th of May, which is going to turn us inward to do some more inner soul depth, transformative work on our empowerment feeling. So we're going to go back and rework on some areas of our lives where we give our power away. And so depending on whatever house that's in for Cancer, when Pluto goes retrograde in your 8th, you're regaining your power around finances, taxing, joint resources, relationships, sexuality. But there's a transformation, some more transformations has to happen before it goes forward. That may be perhaps codependency issues that you give your power away in a relationship. You might get tested when that Aries Saturn goes in to create a committed situation, or to rebalance the dynamic in your current relationships, where you get triggered with Pluto in retrograde to have to work on some more of that giving your power away to the relationships. So that will be worked on, but it gets healed. Pluto doesn't mess around. It creates the results that it wants to. So there is transformation there for Cancer. And then that North Node in the ninth house until the whole year, basically, where you will, and also Jupiter's going to be in the first house for the year too. So that's a year of expansion and inspired beginnings, action, inspired action towards a dharmic calling purpose. Jupiter always represents the guru, what our calling is. And then with that North Node in the ninth house making a trine to your ascendant, really puts you on a very, shall we say, um, universally supported shift towards your dharmic path. So you're going to feel like the universe is, wherever the nodes go, you feel very assisted. The universe is really backing you. So you're really either learning more, traveling, or teaching, or taking on higher, a big sort of shift up in your spiritual gifts or in your spiritual purpose. For me, whenever I had any sort of a transit in my ninth house, I either started astrology, started tarot, and also traveled teaching, doing workshops, coaching, but higher philosophical consciousness raising ventures that lift humanity, and that is your dharma. your calling. And then with that new full moon in the fifth house in Scorpio at 22 degrees, that's a challenging full moon. There could be some triggers. It's going to square the eighth house. So there could be some fear, attachment issues coming up that need to be transformed, and you see them, and it's around friendships and perhaps a relationship. So there could be some triggers showing up and revealing some more work to do. And then Pluto's in that retrograde energy. So it's like a little more work has to come up. But actually, what it will do is it will reveal this full moon in your fifth house, who your true friends are, and who perhaps this is a friend that turns into a relationship long term. But the transformation has to occur. And then it reveals the truth, the true nature of this relationship, which is either that it lasts or it doesn't. Then the new moon in your 12th, which is 527, which is preparing, which is that's at 6 degrees. And the new moon there is really connecting with that Uranian transit because when Uranus moves into your 12th house, so there's a link there because Uranus is always a higher octane of Mercury, and Mercury is Gemini. So travel, writing, communication, going, being hired to work and do things in retreats. I will probably be hired to do a retreat then June. I always do retreats in June, but this might be a new one, I actually did get potentially invited to travel for a retreat too. So new beginnings involving perhaps writing too, or blogging, um, media, and then going into a quiet, sort of, shall we say, introvert or seeking time alone to work on this project, perhaps a writing project, and you go in a solitude situation to work on it for a while. So basically, overall, May looks like, let me just cap it up. Saturn moving into your first house, squaring 10th house, squaring your first house with Jupiter there, Jupiter preparing to go there, is definitely reshaping your career and your dharma. It's basically aligning your career more with your dharmic calling and evolving your work and your status to a mastery level that you are able to sustain yourself for the next 29 to 30 years with a financial feeding you. It feeds you for the good 29 to 30 years. So there's a big upsurge in success, especially with Jupiter in your first house. Income is going to be strong. And then lots of new connections coming in that are supporting your career, of like-minded people that are supporting your new boost up in your career. And then again, just travel is always in the picture with the ninth house North Node and the 12th house Jupiter. So, and the new moon in the 12th house could cause a new opportunity for travel as well, involving work. I have clients in UK who I may end up going over and doing some work with. So it's a great month for Cancer. A lot of very positive shifts. The only downside would be if you have Saturn can block career, can block work, can stop. Saturn will always make sure you're okay and will always make sure you have dinner. May not give you dessert, but it will always make sure you have dinner. So it may kind of hold your career back. You could get fired in a job situation there if you're not in the right, if it's not your dharmic alignment, if it's not in alignment with your new destiny that the North Node is kind of guiding you onto. So you want to just go easy on that career house if it does feel like things are falling apart, and it's a challenging, because Saturn can either be very positive or very challenging depending on our chart, and a lot of the other things like whether we have been in alignment and choosing the right career, or shall we say we are in the right energy and we are willing to take on the career and do it right rather than trying not to. And not, like, let's say you're at a job and you don't want to do a certain part of the work and it's heavy and it's boring and Saturn's in your 10th house, it could cause problems. So you want to with Aries there, you're going to want to make sure you're in a career that inspires and excites you, that you put your energy, that you don't, it's not hard for you to put your energy into. Otherwise, it might be really challenging, that transit. All right, I hope you enjoyed the reading. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have a wonderful month. Namaste.